You will work over 80,000 hours in your lifetime. 80,000 hours, that's early mornings, late nights, weekends sacrificed, vacations skipped. And the majority of people, after all of that, will retire with almost nothing. Not because they didn't try, not because they didn't care, because nobody ever taught them how money actually works. The school system didn't cover it. Your parents probably weren't taught it either. And the people who do know it, they're not exactly rushing to share. That ends today. In this video, I'm breaking down 5 money principles the wealthy live by, and most people never learn. Stay until the end, because principle number 5 is the one that ties everything together. By the way, my name is Mac. I break down the real mechanics of money. The things schools never taught you. The stuff nobody talks about at the dinner table. If that sounds like your kind of channel, stick around. Now let's get into it. The biggest lie about money principle 1. Hard work is not enough. Most of us grew up with the same script. Work hard. Get a good job, save what you can, and eventually, you'll be okay. It sounds reasonable. It sounds responsible. And for millions of people who followed every single step, it simply hasn't worked. Because here's what nobody told you. Hard work earns money. But hard work alone does not build wealth. Let me show you what I mean with 2 people. Same age, same starting point. Both work hard their entire careers. Meet James. James is a nurse. He works 12-hour shifts, picks up overtime whenever he can, and takes home $75,000 a year by his mid-30s. He's disciplined. He shows up. He never misses a day. By 65, James retires with roughly $80,000 saved, enough for maybe 2 or 3 years of living expenses. Then it's gone. Now meet David. David is also a nurse. Same hospital, same salary, same hours. But David learned one thing James never did: what to do with the money after it hits his account. By 65, David retires with $1.2 million. Same job, same income, completely different outcomes. The difference wasn't effort. It was understanding. Wealth is not about how much you earn. It's about what you do with what you earn. And that distinction, that single shift in understanding, is the foundation of everything. Robert Kiyosaki laid this out in one of the most widely read personal finance books ever written. The central argument is almost uncomfortably simple. The rich aren't richer because they work harder. They're richer because they understand how money actually works. And most people were never taught the real difference. Principle 2: buy assets, not liabilities. 2 words that separate wealth building from wealth draining. Assets and liabilities. An asset puts money into your pocket. Investments, rental properties, a business, dividend stocks. These things generate income whether you're working or not. A liability takes money out of your pocket. The expensive car bought on finance, consumer debt, the luxury purchase you made on credit to feel good for a weekend. Here's a comparison that makes this painfully clear. Person A gets a $10,000 bonus at work. They've been eyeing a new car for months. They put the $10,000 down on a $40,000 vehicle, financing the rest. The car payment is $650 a month. Insurance goes up. Maintenance costs money. 5 years later, the car is worth $18,000. They spent over $50,000 total and have an asset worth less than half of what they paid. Person B gets the same $10,000 bonus. They invest it into an index fund tracking the S&P 500. They don't touch it. 10 years later, without adding a single extra dollar, that $10,000 has grown to over $25,000. And it's still growing. Same bonus. One person is poorer. One person is wealthier. The only difference is which direction the money moved. Here's the pattern that plays out over and over again. Poor and middle-class households spend their income on liabilities, often believing they're building a good life. Rich households use income to buy assets first, and those assets start generating their own income. Then that income buys more assets. And that is how wealth compounds, quietly, consistently, year after year, while the person stuck in liabilities wonders why nothing ever changes. The paycheck trap principle 3. First, let's describe your month. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Money comes in. Life happens. Money goes out. You make it to next payday with just enough, or almost enough, to start again. Repeat every month. This is the paycheck trap, and it's not a personal failure. It's a pattern, one that millions of people are locked inside without realizing there's a door. Compare 2 coworkers. Same company, same paycheck, $4,000 a month take home. Sarah waits until the end of the month to see what's left to save. She pays rent, groceries, her phone bill, goes out a couple of times, buys something she didn't plan to buy. By the 28th of the month, there's $40 left, sometimes less. She tells herself she'll do better next month. She doesn't. Not because she's irresponsible, because she's human. Karen does one thing differently. On payday, before she pays a single bill, $400 moves automatically into her investment account. She doesn't see it. She doesn't touch it. She builds her entire month around the $3,600 that's left. Some months are tight, but the $400 is never negotiable. 10 years later, Sarah has sporadic savings and a lot of good memories she can't exactly afford. Karen has quietly built over $75,000 without ever feeling like she was sacrificing much at all. Same income, one decision, 10 years apart. Wealthy people break the cycle with one non-negotiable habit. They pay themselves first. Before the rent, before the groceries. Before anything else, a portion of every paycheck moves automatically into investments, assets, or savings vehicles, not what's left over. First, most people intend to invest whatever's left at the end of the month. There's never anything left at the end of the month. That's not a coincidence. That's human nature, and the wealthy hack around it by removing the decision entirely. The power of compounding principle 4. Let time work for you. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest people in recorded history, has said that most of his fortune came not from intelligence, but from time. Specifically, the time he gave compound growth to work. Let me show you exactly what that means with two brothers, Marcus and Troy. At 22, Marcus starts investing $200 a month. He does it consistently for 10 years, then stops completely at 32. He never invests another dollar. Troy waits. Life is busy. He tells himself he'll start when things settle down. At 32, the same year Marcus stops, Troy finally starts investing $200 a month, and he keeps going all the way to 65. Over 30 years of consistent investing. Here's the result at 65, assuming 8% average annual returns. Marcus invested for just 10 years, $24,000 total. He ends up with approximately $430,000. Troy invested for 33 years, nearly $80,000 total. He ends up with approximately $325,000. Marcus invested less money, stopped earlier, and still ended up with more. That is the power of time in a compounding system. Starting late doesn't just cost you years, it costs you the exponential curve that makes all the difference. The people who don't have this working for them, they're not less intelligent, they just started later, or never started at all. Because nobody showed them the door. Principle number 5, build financial literacy like a skill. The good news, and this is real, not motivational filler, is that financial literacy genuinely changes outcomes. Not instantly, not dramatically, but consistently and irrevocably over time. One final comparison, and this one is the most important. Two people, both 30 years old, both starting from zero, neither has significant savings, neither inherited anything. Person A decides that finances are complicated and overwhelming, so they leave it to chance. They spend the next 35 years working hard, spending freely, and hoping it works out. At 65, they have Social Security, a small pension if they're lucky, and the constant, quiet anxiety that it won't be enough. Person B spends just 1 hour a week learning how money works. They read one book, they watch videos like this one, they apply what they learn, slowly, imperfectly, but consistently. They automate their savings, they avoid consumer debt, they buy assets when they can. At 65, they have options. They can retire. They can keep working because they want to. They can leave something behind, 1 hour a week. That's the gap between those two lives. And here's how you put all some principles into motion starting today. 4 things move the needle. 1. Learn how money actually works. Assets, liabilities, compounding, debt. Understand the rules of the game you're already playing. 2. Pay yourself first. Automate it. Remove the decision from your own hands. 3. Avoid bad debt. Not all debt is equal, but consumer debt and liability spending are wealth killers. 4. Build assets consistently. Stocks, business, real estate. Something that earns while you sleep. Small steps are not small. In a compounding system, small steps taken consistently are everything. Rich didn't stumble into wealth. They followed principles, 5 principles. Principles that are learnable. Principles that were simply never put in front of most people. The system exists. It runs whether you understand it or not. The only question is whether it's running for you or against you. Financial literacy is not a luxury. It is the difference between being a passenger in your own financial life and being the one behind the wheel. Now you know what the difference looks like. The next question is what you do with it. If this opens something up for you, if you caught yourself thinking, I wish someone had told me this sooner, that's exactly why this channel exists. Subscribe, because every week we break down the real mechanics of money, the things schools skipped and nobody talks about at the dinner table. And before you go, drop a comment right now. 1 word, 1 sentence. Tell me, which of the 5 principles hit hardest? I read every single one. See you in the next one.
One of the more important lessons my rich dad taught me, he said there was 4 types of people in the world of business or money, whatever he said. And this here are the 4 different types of people, and he called this the cash flow quadrant. So E stands for employee, S stands for self-employed, small business or specialist like a doctor or a lawyer. B stands for big business, 500 employees or more, and I stands for investor. Now the distinction here is this, is that each of these are four different types of people. They have four different tax laws for all four different types of people, and this is throughout the world. But it was my poor dad who always said to me, you know, son, go to school so you can get a job. So my poor dad wanted me to be an employee like him. And there's nothing wrong with that and all this, except the tax laws are the worst for employees. As Warren Buffett says, you know, he, as a business owner and investor, he pays a lower percentage rate than the employees. And many employees are having a tough time today. Not only is there high gas prices, but there's going to be higher taxes. My mother wanted me to become a doctor or a specialist or a small business person. And I said to my mom, S stands for smart. She says, you got a good point there, because I didn't do well in school, so I wasn't going to make it there. It was my rich dad who advised me to become an entrepreneur or a big business owner like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, Michael Dell, all those guys who created Facebook and Yahoo and all this, or Google. And he wanted me to become an investor. So he started me playing the game of Monopoly, you know, 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. So I learned to be an investor and I learned to be an entrepreneur. So the good news is, if you want to get rich, you can get rich in all 4 quadrants, okay? That's up to